Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I am Valerie Green from CoachValerieGreen.com. And today I'm really excited to interview Kate Houston. She just has such a beautiful smile and energy. I'm just going to go ahead and say hello right away.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me and to be in connection with all of your audience. I'm so excited.
Yes. And so this show, Soul Shaking Love, is dedicated to bringing you the world's expert teachers to help you to bring that mind, body, and spirit connection both to yourself and to your true love. And so this topic, which is attract the right man without having to downplay your natural powerhouse nature, is something that dating and love coach Kate Houston specializes in helping women with. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her in case you haven't heard about her, and then what we're going to talk about. And then I'm just super excited to dive in. And Kate and I were chatting beforehand, and she's just so passionate about this topic, because basically that women struggle with trusting their decision making, right? And like,
Yes.
I completely agree that, we
Doubt
get
and anxiety, right? Woo.
anxiety, but then also we get swept up with, oh, I really have strong feelings and I like this guy. And I think he's the one just based on our feelings,
Yes.
and then, we forget to balance our feelings with our knowing how to access our intuition and really knowing how to choose wisely, which I know is that you're going to talk about changing your man picker, or recalibrating it. Not that there's anything wrong with you, but it's about recalibrating. So that's the topic, and it's just really juicy, because I know that everyone wants to, and I love the way that Kate talks about it. She says, step out of the dating wasteland into finally meeting your real man with confidence and clarity and having fun doing it.
The weight and the heaviness that everybody feels, oh, I feel it with you.
Yes. And I
100%.
love that we're talking about that, because I think that everybody can relate that um online dating is just frustrating. Like, I really haven't heard. Yes, I have coached, and I'm sure you've coached people that have met their partners online, but wasteland is a good name to describe the experience of it, because it's kind of like, yes, you will find your needle in a haystack, but you have to be strategic. And
There
the
is a
hay,
haystack to get
the
through.
haystack is really big, yes.
But I think it's about, there's so much about how to approach it to make it a curious wonder rather than like heavy and weighted and daunting is usually what I hear. So we
Yes.
tighten up and we know it's a process. And when we are really committed to that vision, that dream, and we are no matter what going for that, then we will sit with that and that's the driver, and even the road bumps along the way will not stop us from keep going, because it's the stopping and letting go and just saying never mind that's really failure. It's not really failure if you try and it's not the right match. So good.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and I love that nugget of wisdom that, too, if we have strong feelings, we tend to think, oh my God, it has to be the one, otherwise there's nobody else out there. And it's like, actually, if you slow it down and pay attention to the things that I'm sure you're going to talk about in this interview, that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And the right person for you will be clarified over time. It's not like, just being sure about it in the beginning.
And it's paying attention to all the feedback and discerning which feedback is important and what isn't, or that's all part of that process. And we don't learn this. Nobody teaches us this. We witness family and parents or family members in their relationships on any level of joy and dysfunction, because there's probably both, just like most relationships. And it's really about finding a better way to step into this so we don't repeat the patterns. I know so many women have had that tumultuous relationship, and then maybe you're a little gun shy because like, oh, don't want to repeat that. So how do they get back into it with real tangible steps that help them to relax and get back into joy and feel more free, and also have the tangible steps that really smart women want and need, that they know can prove the path, have been a proven path for others and have worked. And the things that I coach on are methods and techniques that teach you how to be a dynamic, magnetic and alluring woman, because it's, you maybe learn a few training wheels things that like, try this out, a little script here and there, but it's not let's just do that, because then it's not really you. It's let me have you practice it. You're going to feel uncomfortable because it's new, but you're learning a new path. And then we're going to talk about how this is really you. And we're going to, once you're on the other side, there's this beauty. Wow, when I do this, then this happened. And wow, it was so easy. This response that I got was not what I thought. And I usually spin about it in my head. Or so it's really taking that nuance. And then when they have the individual experience, then it's really a custom clarification of how you can do that dynamically, so that no matter what situation, what conversation, what man, what interaction, what message on a dating app is happening, you have the power and that allure and magnetism to be authentic and be dynamic in how you interact, so that in the moment immediacy and playfulness, and what I really call a flirt, a present, to be in that witty flirtiness, because really smart, successful women who maybe historically have been in their masculine, really leaning into the present of a flirt with the wittiness. That's where we get to be witty and smart with our intellect, but it's playful and light too. So we get to step into that and not fear, what does it mean? Were they going to make it mean? Men are very present. I mean, the amygdala, our prehistoric brain, literally in men, is what's happening now? Am I going to die now? Am I hunting something now? Is there a tiger right now? It's very present. And women, we're the berry pickers, right? It's, well, I have to remember that berry killed somebody last time. So we're like present, we're the past and the future a lot by nature of our chemistry. So we as women get to be more present and just let go of some of that anxiety of what it could mean. What if it just means you're having a delightful experience, and all your job is to decide at the end of meeting somebody if you want to hang out with them for another hour another time. Like, take that pressure off. Right?
Yes.
Because you want to experience somebody so that when you're with them, you're enjoying them. No matter what you're doing, whether it's an activity, dinner, or you're working on a project at home, that eventually that's what you were looking at, is how are your ways of being dancing with each other?
Yeah.
Are you connecting? Is there a calm groundedness to it? There can be the attraction. I like saying, for my person that I'm with, it took 3 dates before I was really feeling that ooh, a little more intimacy had happened on that date. And then we had the kiss and it was like, ooh, but it wasn't that over the top, the attractions we can't explain that we've all had. Where I just can't stars and can't see anything in front of me, and it's like I'm blinded, which I know, of course, and my clients know that that's usually a sign of something else going on.
Right.
So what I love is that there's it's a warmth and a centeredness rather than an anxiety that's like the heart thumping in your throat kind of a thing. It's more in the solar plexus. Like you feel like there's a coming home energy of connection. So I love that. And I think women can really know and have, with some of the tools and techniques that I help them understand how to utilize, understanding the first 3 dates with a clarity, whether this person is somebody they want to get to know better or not. There should be enough time for some alignments to be clear. And when you learn what it is you're asking and talking about, you can do that. And you can do it without it sounding like a job interview.
Right.
When I was in the dating pool, how many men I'd sit down with and I'd just be curious and have conversation and ask them interesting questions. And I was like, tell me more, because I love people, knowing people. And I just let it be about, who's this wonderful, curious person in front of me? And they would leave that day saying, thank you so much. This so felt like fun. It didn't feel like a job interview. I've been on so many dates that felt like job interviews because there's that protection, right? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And that's the masculine energy. And we know, we got that because we want to protect ourselves, but we can utilize that energy for better purposes. When we learn how to be vulnerable and share who we are, and knowing the moments when we can share that, that's really being like a gold standard woman. Men really fall in love with women by when they show them who they are, by what they desire, value, dream of. And it's taking those past anxious moments, maybe when you would have pulled away at what does he mean by whatever he's saying or asking, and leaning in instead in vulnerability and having the right way to say what you want to say about who you are without an expectation. Ooh, this is the important part of them responding right then or ever, or you'll see it with their actions, or they'll come back. If they're not a quick responder in the second or moment, might be a day or two later. You want a man who's discerning too, and he may take something in and hear that you are a high value woman, and he may be discerning. Am I ready for that? I respect her enough to take the time. Am I in this place to consider this? Like, what if that's what they're doing rather than, oh, they're ghosting me?
Right, exactly.
There's so much beauty in that. So I love it when we really can learn to use our masculine energy to step into our feminine and be in this vulnerable authenticity. I call it audaciously authentic.
Ooh, love that.
So you get to be this big personality, because I'm a big personality. And some people would say, oh, do I intimidate? Do I overpower? Well, no. Real men of merit, men that are noble masculine, are looking for their exalted feminine woman. And that's an empowered presence, right? Everybody loves a man with a presence. If you've got a strong personality, you want somebody that matches that. And you don't have to be meek to be feminine. I know there's sometimes we hear these other techniques or coaches like, oh, I have to be, meek and bland and passive. No, real men are looking for their equal, that person they can build that empire with, right? That power coupledom, and create their legacy together. Because they're purpose driven too. Not just I want to fall in love and live a life, but there's what are we doing together that's greater now in the world? How can we make
Absolutely.
contribution? Oh, and that's sexy. And that builds the intimacy further when you find those things that align, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And gosh, you said so many wonderful things. Um, so I mean, first of all, I completely agree. And I think probably a lot of our watchers and listeners will be looking for examples. Like, what's an example of showing up with a job interview versus, showing up with that open-hearted
Well,
curiosity?
I'm gonna give you a tip you can utilize. It's a little, you have to, it's training wheels if you're not used to it. Remember, coming in with delight, awe, and wonder. One of the things, this is another thing, when we're powerhouse women and we're in masculine, there's a strength and a wisdom with our age. And we often say, well, I think, why are these guys just after younger women, thinking it's an age thing? It's an energy thing. It is delight, wonder, curiosity. You're still surprised by life. You're still open to those surprises and wonders in life. And if we can come with that energy, and it's in all of us, because it is that childlike wonder that we all have had. When we're 4 and 5 and dreamed of who we wanted to be, maybe you went around the house dancing, or you did a baton twirling, or whatever that version of you is, that's your real feminine essence, because you don't know any other place to be when you're that young.
Right.
So going back to that energy of fun and lightness and wonder is really part of it. So showing up on the date with curiosity rather than in a state of conclusion, which is the criticism and judgment. And we may go, oh, I'm not doing that. But if you're like, well, I'm going to see if he's showing up for me, like you can already feel that energy. How is he better show up on this date. You've already decided some things. So just be like, I'm there. I'm curious to find out 1 or 2 things that I think is fantastic. Maybe there's some things we have in alignment. What I get to be excited that I attracted somebody with a few more of the things I desire. without it having to be the pressure of everything. Now, the tangible thing I'm going to give you all for a tip is this. Ask who, what, when, where, how questions, because they bring out storytelling. Everybody is a meaning-making machine. We are our storytellers. So this is where you can ask questions like, oh, so how many brothers and sisters do you have? Oh, you're the middle child. How was that? And there's all kinds of stuff they can share in that. They can share a Jan Brady horrible story or a wonderful story, and men are actually very open and vulnerable and will tell you honestly a lot if you're in this energy of just holding space hearing.
Right.
Where, with a sense of non-judgment, because you're just learning. And then they might say, oh yeah, this, or I was the oldest brother or sister, and I took care of the family while my parents worked. It's an opportunity to be in empathy with them. Wow, that must have been really tough, having to lead everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just sit that, and then they feel with you. Men want to see you again because of how you make them feel. Can you make them feel like a hero, that they succeeded with you? And letting them know that they meet some of your desires. And so the who, what, when, where, how questions, not why, because there's some criticism around that, not especially on a first date. But you can
And why brings us more into our heads.
Yeah, heart.
Why did you do that? Then they'll be in their head, right? You want them to be in their heart. Exactly.
Yeah, and I've even had people, where they said we went on a date and had these questions, and he talked about how he had a really tumultuous relationship with his parents, or he left when he was 17, and then he's in his whole life tried to have that. And then he told the story of how he has a really strong, healthy boundary of a parent who is inconsistent at best. And he said, I'm still open. I said, but he's in his court. He has to show up. And I just got burned too many times. So now I'm open. So you want to hear healthy. I mean, we all have stuff that happened. We're not looking for a clean slate because we're too old and we've lived life, right? We're looking for, how do they handle things?
Yes.
Do they have healthy boundaries, but are they open and loving? Do they, and sometimes it is, you have to say, no, I don't speak to them anymore because it just hurt too much. But I'm always open if they, I mean, this is where we get into the juice of the conversation, and they love it. And that's where you can interject and talk about things for you. And it's not about oversharing, because that's one of the things I know sometimes women want to do is you want to share your delight, your experience, and be discerning about who you share your heartache and challenges with. You can have a starter of like, yeah, I had a hard relationship with my mom too, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's a minute or two, but not a 20-minute story, right?
Right.
Like, wow,
Exactly. And probably focused on what we've done to heal and grow from that too.
Yes, how we did, like, wow, and what I learned was, XYZ, because a discerning man who's a high value man looking for a high value woman also wants to know you can reflect, you can be responsible and accountable for your part in things. You can realize where you had beliefs that weren't really true anymore. And this is all the work that comes through working with a coach, is you get that groundwork for yourself. And there may be some very specific beliefs that are just buried in there. And when you land the right tangible words and it comes forth, it's like your whole body releases. You chills, you might have tears, you have like a heart beating. You've landed on a consciousness of something that's been unconsciously buried. And when we reveal that, oh my gosh, you start to see where it's in your life. And then you can start to unlearn it and then find the behaviors that were a part of that, to unlearn the behaviors and replace them with these new confidences and techniques and methods that are actually more you than you think. You just don't have the practice with them yet, right? That's why I call it training wheels. It might feel uncomfortable, but it's authentic when it's in the flow. It's authentic when you're in the vulnerability of it all.
Exactly. Yeah. And I imagine that anything new and unfamiliar is going to feel uncomfortable. But if you get support, either through a coach or even just a friend asking you these deep questions to help you to know, okay, what makes me tick? And what is my purpose, and what's the most important thing about me as a person, and what do I most enjoy about life and about others? And I imagine that it's just about sharing those kinds of things, right?
And it's really about the mistake a lot of women will make is that they think, oh, this is going to be more painful to do that work than where I'm having this repeating pattern of relationships and dating problems, when in fact it's so freeing. It is so freeing that you're lighter. There's a level of freedom and lightness you end up with because you have a grounding, and I call it clarity within, that becomes the well and the foundation and your anchor, so that you are your anchor and nobody can take that away from you. And you have people support you, your partner, your people you're dating. You want them to be in support of who you are. And then this beauty unfolds because then you feel seen because you're so grounded and certain. I mean, you're still learning, but there's certain things like, there's certain deal breakers that are who you are, and like, wouldn't it be fun to have a date like on your fourth, fifth, or sixth date when you're finally just sitting down talking and like, okay, what are your deal breakers? And it's a game and you're making it funny and fun. And even if it's something that you're like, maybe not quite right on, or you're not perfectly aligned, you go, I can perfectly see that. Well, tell me more about that. And you just get to hear about it, and you get to decide if that aligns enough. Some things don't have to align 100%, right? We have certain ones that are yes. But, there's a lot of things we don't think about. And so this person might bring up something I've never thought about that before. Because I think a long time ago, I had a date with somebody and they said, well, one of their deal breakers is they have to eat healthy food. And I went, wow, it never occurred to me that I never thought that I might date somebody who's just like a fast food junkie. Right. But I was like, oh, that's good. I should probably think about like, and also for me, it's like, eats healthy and still enjoys the chocolate cake. Share that still. I still love that. So like, you enjoy life and foods in balance, so those types of things, along with the classic deal breakers of, whether you want kids or where you want to live, or, there's so many pieces. But what I love too is that when we go back to the Real Man navigation tool, when we have people, I have so many women who say, oh, my picker's broken, my man picker's broken. Well, your man picker's actually not broken. It's just been calibrated with the wrong criteria. And it often is the things you don't want. We flip it and say, oh, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this, and we have this energy, but it's really a mask for the things we don't want because we had that before.
Right.
So we really get clarity in recalibrating your navigation tool and getting really clear about your desires, your values, your dreams. And they're things that are they are more abstract, but they are more grounded and you see it more clearly. So instead of it being, he has to have a certain job or make a certain amount of money. Well, if you say, oh, he has to make, mid six figures, well, then you've just cut out all the multimillionaires. I mean, like, what are you really looking for? And then if somebody could have that and be highly leveraged and not have cash flow, like, you have to be really clear about your place and desires so that you can see that. Or if you want something that's very generous, what does that mean? Are they in volunteer and maybe they do it in a certain way you've never thought of? So when you hear about somebody talking about their lives and those who, what, when, where, how questions, you start to see, oh, that really aligns with me. And you're letting that dynamic happen rather than trying to find it fit into one or three slots you've allowed it to fit in, right, with this old way. And I call it the Real Man navigation tool because it's like a compass where you just have to shift a few things to move the dial 1 degree. Because when we're in a compass and we're on the ocean, we move 1 degree, we are in an entirely different place in the world. So I always say the shifts that usually the women that I work with and that are part of these kinds of series, they are already doing work. So they've either had therapy or they've had some coaching or they had some support, they've read some work. It's just that there's a few things that are small yet significant to break through. And so that's where these types of tools can help because it's very tangible, yet it's very dynamic. And I find that really works with the highly successful, motivated, go-getters, powerhouse women, because they have to have that blend. I keep them busy. I keep their intellect busy because they just won't want to run.
Right.
Drop in the heart. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I love what you're saying because it sounds like we'll take the example that you shared about I want to date a guy who is, let's say, financially successful, right? Like let's say that's your initial clarification, but we don't know what that means or what that provides for you,
Yeah.
And so it's one kind of energy to show up on a date with that job interview, like trying to decide whether he is successful, right? Which is masculine energy, and that's going to make the guy feel intimidated, versus what you're saying, which is slow down and look at, okay, if it's not about him, obviously he needs to be taking care of himself financially. I don't want to be a caretaker.
Yeah.
But it's about what that provides.
You hear that a lot, right?
Right. Exactly.
Like, oh, there's a little fear under there. If anybody's listening, going, oh, I've said that. There's a little fear we get underneath, because that fear is going to drive what you attract. Even if you desperately don't want to.
Yep, exactly. It's the emotional charge that we're holding. And so if we shift out of what we don't want into what we do want, then it's about asking, what does that provide for me? Well, I just want to feel taken care of. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to work. I love my career. What does that mean? It means I want us to be able to plan trips together that we can both afford. It means that I want us to plan our future together that we're both contributing to. Like whatever it is that it means.
Wealth we can build better together for that legacy, like I was talking about.
Right. And then you're in that joy and that possibility rather than coming from fear, right?
Yeah, it's so good. And I love it too, because this blends well. Once you kind of use that real man navigation tool, you're attracting more quality men. You're having those conversations where more storytelling shows up with those who, what, when, where, how. As you go further, then there's the dynamics of that, what I call the gold standard woman. And it doesn't mean you're aloof or that you're closed off. What it means is you're really taking advantage of those moments. And I like to really clarify this when I do these interviews, because it really lands for women. It's like, for me, and I've had my clients this way, is that a man will say something on a date. He'll be in the moment. Remember, he's very present. We keep forgetting that. And it's okay, because we're just like, oh, we just may feel stuff, or oh, this is possible. It's not your fault. And then we just sort of freeze up, or we get fearful, or we pull away because something he says, the story we make up about it, takes us into, oh, maybe he wants something more than I'm ready for, or maybe he's just, maybe if he says something to compliment my looks, but then it makes me worry, does he want in my pants? There's all these things that start to happen, and we just constrict. But when we have a different way of approaching that, when we're so clear on our standards, so that when there's those moments that they say things that maybe in the past upset us or made us pull away, we see that as the avenue for vulnerability. And it's about knowing what to say, this is what I actually stand for and what I'm looking for. And it's just it's like a platform that they get to hear, and it's neutral. And there's no, what do you think now? No, there's not that. And then it's sometimes they'll say something right then. Oh, yeah, okay, what does that look like? Or they'll be curious, right? And I think too, the beautiful thing when you know that is then you can start to flirt and compliment men in a way that is vulnerable but feels safe. So when a man starts to show up like the kind of man you desire, this is key, because it's not saying, oh, I really love your suit. That doesn't land for a man as much as, wow, you're a dapper dresser. I find men who dress sharply attractive and powerful. And he's hearing, I am meeting your standard, which means more to a man than, oh, you like what I'm wearing. Do you see there's a nuance? And I think you have to really slow that down.
Yes.
I didn't know there was a difference forever, but there is. Or when he tells a story about his family and he was really caring, maybe, if he had a autistic brother, he was there for and coached on a team or whatever, there's stories they will tell, and you go to, wow, your compassion and love for your brother. I find men attractive who really have such an open heart with their families. That is winning with you. He's feeling like a hero with you.
Exactly.
I'm meeting what you desire. And it's not so direct. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Light nuance, but it also allows you to feel safe, because it's you sharing what you desire and love about men and the kind of men that you're desiring to meet. So it's
Yeah.
win-win. It takes a little energy pressure off of you to feel too vulnerable because you're not making it just about him. It's so beautiful, you know. Or
Exactly.
chivalrous. He opens the door. I love men who are chivalrous. Oh, it's so juicy. I love that.
Exactly.
And they'll be, I'm being that way. I was just being me. What is beautiful is when you recognize them for just being who they are, in the ways that they're simply just being who they are, and they're winning.
Exactly.
I
Right.
mean, if
Because
you
men are designed to be providers. So if you let him know what he's providing for you, then he feels successful in making you happy.
let him walk you to your car, whether it's a parking lot, a parking garage, you know, you could say, I could really use your help. Also very useful. Would you walk me to my car? It'd make me feel so much more safe and secure.
Yeah.
And then you get to say when you give him a hug or a kiss or whatever you feel comfortable with at the car, you still don't owe him anything unless you're comfortable mutually, right? Oh, you're my parking hero. You can say that and he just lights up. I mean, these seem simple, but let him know he's like, allow yourself to have that moment with him showing up for you. Even if you don't know if it's the long term, everything showing up, be juicy in that some man has quality enough to want to care for you, to walk you to your car and be there with you. You deserve that. It feels,
Mm,
and then you get to go, thank you.
exactly. I know
And
it's so
they feel that. And then it's the feeling they remember of how you made them feel.
exactly. Yeah. And so, how do you support a woman who wants to show up and be joyful and grounded? And she is clear about what she wants, but she might be jaded, from the past
Well,
and not be able to then authentically show up, in the light, playful attitude. Like, how do you help somebody show up this way if they might not believe it's possible?
well, what I've discovered that's been true for me and a lot of powerhouse women, there's the gift and there is the the coping mechanism or the skill we learn to be resilient, to get through the challenges, to hunker down, to move forward, whatever it might be from childhood, school, whatever, where then we were the star athlete or we were the valedictorian and we were doing all these things because we wanted to succeed, but we also have a part of our child inside that wanted to be recognized, right, for that success. So
Mm-hmm.
that resilience is the gift of that is that we got to where we want to be. But there's when we're talking about love and when we have these challenges over and over in relationship and patterns, that coping mechanism is actually keeping it love at bay. So we get to
Mm-hmm.
look at how did we use that decision. I like to say we get to decide because there is a decision whether we knew we did it or not. And that gives us the power, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To believe something that then created a path we're on. Now, lots of beauty can come on that path, but if it's love we're wanting and it's not happening, and that's the only thing missing, we get to transmute, still celebrate the gift and use it, but we get to bring it back into balance. Where like it's maybe the masculine that go get him is way too one direction. We get to find the pendulum in the middle, and it's bringing out both. So I don't like saying we have to ignore the masculine, ignore that powerhouse. That's a whole part of who you are, your bigness, but we get to bring it in balance with this feminine side that's playful and witty and confident. The confidence is very powerful
Mm-hmm.
and energized, and that light playfulness where we get to say what we desire and recognizing and appreciating a man who shows up that way. So
Yeah.
that's where that dance is, and it's usually the challenge is women don't know how to shift between one to the other,
Right.
right? So they have that challenge, and people say, oh, I have to put my work cap over here and become this damsel in distress, right? And it's not what you need to be at all. It's trusting you can play with your heart and your desire and your lightness and your awe and wonder and your curiosity, because that curiosity is truly the path that will lead you to more interesting conversations and more openness for you. and more getting clarity and like, oh, no, I'm curious about this when you said this. And then they say something completely different. You go, I'm so glad I asked that question because I thought it meant something completely different. So you get to recognize each other in conversation, communication, rather than in judgment and criticism, right? Because that's all there to protect us. And I know I had it too. And it can
Exactly.
come up. And it's still, you get to reset too. You know, it's not like this is like a practice.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what might be some of those positive beliefs that you help your clients believe that allow them to show up? And because it does take a lot of courage to be, curious.
Well, the first thing I like to say is that like we get underneath even just the dating apps is a good one because there's lots of story that we make about that. And that's this beginning. That's sort of my entry point. It's like they ghosted me, whatever the stories are. It's like, well, do you really know they ghosted you? Or you're just there, you unmatched, he unmatched, or you're now unmatched. I mean, I know when I was on the apps, there were a few times where I swiped the wrong way or unmatched accidentally, and then they were gone. Gone.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there could be other possible
Accidentally deleted something,
interpretations.
or I mean anything. Or like, I mean, it's not, it's not always about you specifically. It wasn't always about me. It's like, I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're choosing out because they're realizing I'm looking for something more serious. And maybe they unskillfully just decided to step away and choose out. Great. I always say thank you. I had a time when I had a date and I was showing up. It was like 10 minutes before the date, and I showed up and I was opening the app to do one more look at him to like, okay, I'll recognize him, right? And I opened up the app. I'm sitting outside of the restaurant where we're meeting for happy hour, and we weren't matched anymore.
Huh.
But I decided I wanted to be who I am and be in my integrity. I said I'd show up. I'm here. I can give it 10 or 15 minutes. Who knows why? If he shows up, great. If not, I'm in integrity with me. My words and my actions are matching. And I went in there, had a soda, talked to the waiter, had some fun. The guy didn't show up, which is perfectly fine. I said, thank you, God and the universe. And then next door, one of my favorite stores was having a sale, and I got all these new clothes for almost nothing. So I'm like, this is why I was over here. It's fine. It's like take the weight off of things meaning so much, the heaviness, because every time we make build evidence for, oh, there are no more good men out there, any of those things, or I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I look this way, or I'm whatever attitude, we're going to look for more evidence that way.
Right.
And it just supports that versus just not a match and letting it be light and go, this is just the journey.
Got it. Right. Which that belief allows us to then show up with our clarity about, okay, this is what makes me tick. This is what I want, how I want to feel in my ideal relationship. These are my values. Let me just show up and be me and be in integrity with myself, and then be curious about who this guy is and have a good time.
Yeah. Yes. And then you just see over time if he shows up, and the more conversations you have, if there's more alignment for you. And it's getting clear on what that alignment is, because sometimes we have a short list, but then there's deeper things. That's what I work with my clients to help them really get clarity on, so that then they can get and have curious questions even deeper. So wait, what did you mean by, I just like, I don't want to, can you repeat that? Or this is what I heard you say. And then you're having further conversations to really understand what they desire too. And you just, again, get to lay out, this is what I desire. This is my dream. This is where I'm heading. This is what I'm looking for. And if they're not interested, they will either tell you or step aside in one way or another. And you just get to not have to make a story up about it if they do it unskillfully. Because frankly, a lot of guys have said, no, I know, thank you. And then they get a text that goes like this, nobody wants that.
No.
I got a text like that from a guy too. He's like, I'm like, wow, that date was average and it was nice enough, but he thought it was horrible. I'm like, we had different experiences. And I decided to think, we're not a match. Clearly, some things are really deep for him because he's so upset. And I thought we had a nice conversation and flow. Totally different perspectives. Wow. And I didn't have to respond. I just wished him well. Everybody's at a different point in their journey and dating and figuring it out. And we're all just humans wanting to love and be loved. I just go back to that, like, and we all have fear in different ways.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliant story because you are obviously accepting his experience, and I imagine even giving him compassion, but at the same time, you don't know him. You only went on one date. It was obviously his stuff, so you don't need to make it mean anything. You can just send him compassion and wish him the best, and
Yeah,
then
and
continue on with your journey.
yeah, made space, and me practicing that discernment to say with clarity, that's a no. Thanks though. It's you know. Um, and I think too when we're on dates, like women can, I like to say we can drop the virtual handkerchief. Men need a little more direct clarity that we're interested in them. Women might say, well, I'm on a date with him. Doesn't that mean anything? No. Or I'm chatting on the app. Doesn't that mean anything? No. Or I'm on the phone with him. It's like they need real direct. So dropping
Right.
the virtual handkerchief is very important. So things like you can change the energy the moment you get a message like, hi, how are you? Oh my gosh. Like we all hate that, but here's what you can do. If you try this, it will immediately change the conversation. Hi, how are you? You're going to go, great, better now that I'm speaking to you. And I'm like, oh, wait, she's interested. Doesn't mean you've promised anything. It just is a lightness. It is a funness. It's the energy of feeling, oh, maybe she does like me and she's just not swiping 1,000 people, you know? So there's little things like that where you step into just having fun with it that actually
Exactly.
creates that energy for them to want to experience that again. And then you get to discern, more times you see them are the things matching that you desire. And you get to decide too. I had a point where too, my partner was asking me about exclusivity because he said, well, what does that look like? What's the roadmap to your heart? Really? I'm like, oh, I said, I'm actually love getting to know you. I feel like we're getting to know each other well. I'm not ready yet for that. Now you don't have to jump on it the minute a man offers it either. I said, I just need a little more time and just like if getting to know you better. I'm not sure yet, but I'm loving where we're headed in the direction. I feel like we're heading in that direction so that he knew I wasn't in question. I said, so far what I've heard, I feel like we're really moving there. I'm just not ready for that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Exactly.
3 weeks, 4 weeks, and a whole bunch of dates later, then it was exclusive, right? That was beautiful. I got to be really discerning, and my clients get to be really discerning, but also vulnerable and open, saying, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. That's the
Exactly.
virtual handkerchief too, letting them know that you're interested.
Right. Just sharing your positive feelings and appreciating him for whatever he did provide, even if it's small, making him feel like he's winning in some small way and making you happy. And that
Yeah,
is what will make him feel good to then want to continue to date you.
it's true. That emotional support, I think, is what so many women are looking for, where we feel like we don't have to do it all alone. It's just we're tired of spinning all the plates, right? So when a man takes out the trash, it's about what does it provide for you? Oh my God, that provided me with relaxation and ease. I didn't have to stress about it. I got to sit down and put my feet up. That's worth it for them. That's winning. I
Right.
feel this rather than I just didn't have to do it, or you should have known to do it, or it didn't, it takes a little.
It's true. And then on a date, it's like pulling the chair out or opening the door or opening the car door or, all these little things that we think that, he just, obviously we knew that he did it for us. But if we just say, oh my God, thank you, I feel so taken care of,
Yes,
then that's what makes him feel successful.
exactly. Because that's what they want. And we get to receive and allow and let that happen. And that reception can be very vulnerable. But that's what we work on when we're talking about becoming that magnetic and alluring woman, is really learning those methods and techniques that are authentic to you. They're not things that are stepping out of who you are. It's just enlivening a part of you that's been not in balance with the strength and masculine, because that's really the world, right? Of course, it makes sense. We've been in that.
I
And we want to
know.
forget and do things out there, but we're having this awakening with feminine to come back into the world. And we want to bring that wholeheartedness, not just the masculine, but this feminine heartedness all together. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Exactly. And I know that what you've been talking about is that the way to do that is to take our attention off of, the qualities we want him to have and put it on how we want to feel and what that provides for us, and getting that inner clarity. So then we know exactly what questions to be curious about. And I know that that's what you offer in your free gift.
Oh, yes. Thank you. And one last thing besides that, I wanted to say for clarity, if you
Yes,
if you don't mind,
of course.
then I'll share my gift is, I just thought of this too, and I'm feeling called to share it, is
Yes.
when you have the end of a date and a man says, I'd love to see you again, you say, great, you leave the date and you feel anxious because you don't have knowledge. You feel doubt. You feel there's no clarity, right? So women can know before you go on a date, decide if, okay, if I'm enjoying the date and want to see him again, when are the next 2 or 3 times I'm available? So when he says it, you go, great, I'd love that. These are the times I'm available next. And he either then becomes problem solver to figure out what will work, or if he was just being polite, he has to be honest. Either way, you walk away with clarity.
Ah.
So there are nuances of things you can do where you are not leading, not with your masculine, but you're preparing and you're ready to respond with information so that you can get, and then you can be excited. You can go home. Oh, I have a date next Thursday with them after this date. This is so fun. And now you're in excitement, not in anxiety, wondering what's going to happen or when's he going to text next or all the stuff that goes up in that.
Right.
You're
Wow,
very
that
happy.
that is really brilliant. And I think that that's actually a microcosm, because we can take that and apply that to other issues, right? Because what you're saying is that masculine energy is wanting to make something happen, but feminine energy is just revealing information from the inside.
Yes.
And so that's what you're saying is like, when he's just like, I'd love to see you again, then you can have information to share with him. Oh my gosh, I'd love that. Here's when I'm free next.
Yeah.
And then the response that he gives will let you know whether he wants that or not. He'll either be like, oh my gosh, let me check my schedule and get back to you. And that sounds wonderful. In which case, you got that, because tone of voice and body language is really communication, right? The words are a small part of it. So you could read in his tone of voice or body language whether he means it.
Yeah. And also you can be clear about, like, if he says, well, let me check my schedule and I'll text you. And then you can also lean in and share a standard. This is where I'm talking about being a gold standard woman. You get to say, I'd really love to know by when you would message me, and we can plan that, because for me, I want to be excited. And when I know when we have a next time, I get to be excited, and I'm kind of in the unknown. It feels icky. They don't want to make you feel icky. If you're honest like that, then he either steps in to meet your need and your standard or not, right?
Exactly. And I mean, there's so many nuances to what you're saying, right? It depends on if this is the first date, second date, third date, how you would say it, right? But like, I think that the principle that you're sharing is incredibly important. It's just about being vulnerable about how something impacts us, not telling the man what to do. Like, I need you to respond to me by this time. That's masculine energy. That's not what we want. But
you talk about how you feel when you don't have, when things are uncertain, because that's actually more true.
Right.
Uncertainty in plans really causes me anxiety. Fact. Share it. So, like, I would love to know, like, I hope, whatever you want to say then after that, like, so I'm hoping I'll hear from you. So I can be excited about our date.
Exactly. It's like, when I know when things are going to happen, I feel excited. When I feel uncertainty, I feel uncomfortable. So just wanted to let you know that, so that you know how to make me happy.
Yeah. You're not even saying that part, right? Of course. But like, they'll be thinking, if they're not capable of that, then you'll learn, and then they'll step out and you're like, oh, I didn't have to have another date. That's great. Or put more energy into that, because they may not be ready. And there's lots of great guys who aren't ready at the time you meet them for what you want. So just know that too. You can meet amazing men that are not on the same path timeline you are. And that's also okay to have your discernment. So, not now. No, thank you. And like, you can leave things with a vulnerable, connected no, and a man might show up again later if he's ready and just check in and say, hey, wanted to see if you want to go on a date. Are you available? Are you single still? And sometimes women have really had amazing experiences with that and met their partners who, 6 months, 8 months, a year later Not that they were waiting for them, but had that happen. So it's pretty phenomenal just to be open like that and lean into that kind of clarity so you can share who you are and be vulnerable that way. And men love it.
Yes, I know. And a lot of women are scared of being vulnerable because they're scared of pushing away the guy. But my opinion is that that'll push away the guy that's not compatible with you. It'll not push away the guy that is, right? So is that what you believe?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and I want to make it back to our gift. Are you ready for that? I'm sorry. We tangented because I just wanted to share the juiciness with everybody.
Oh,
Little tips
please.
you can actually take out for a spin in your dating in the next week or two. So the gift I have for you, I'm so excited because it's a brand new kind of gift that is called, it is a quiz and journal that goes together. It's called What is Your Bold Love Archetype? So you take the quiz so you can identify what your bold love archetype style is. And then there are some custom journal prompts for your particular archetype to go deeper on that can really be a game changer for how you perceive and understand. It might bring up some ahas. It might, land for you in a different way. Now, here's the thing. I include all the archetypes and all the journal prompts because I had a lot of ladies say, kind of want to see what else, like maybe I have a little bit of this version. I'm primary this archetype, but then there's a little of that. So I included all so you can go explore. And when you get intimate with those journal prompts, it's part of you getting into your feminine allure and magnetism. So that's where I give that gift so you can start to really be intimate with you and be playful with you and authentic with you.
I love that. Wow, quiz and journaling prompts.
Yes.
It sounds like, yeah, once we fill that out, then we'll be on our way to answering and asking those deep questions with the joy that you talk about. So
Love it.
I love that. And so, yes, I will put the link to that below the video if you're watching this on YouTube, and I'll put it in the show notes if you're listening on a podcast platform. So this is just really so many gold nuggets. I'm probably going to go back and re-listen to this because you've shared a lot of tips about how to be grounded and be in your inner joy, because we need clarity as to our vision and values and all the wonderful things that we are excited about rather than focusing on what we're scared of. And so that's the first thing that your free gift and your coaching helps women to do. And then it's about really being strategic, not dimming your light, right? Letting your light shine.
Big, baby, be big.
That's right. Yeah, no, yes. Let's really fully own
now, whether they're quiet and big. I mean, they'll have to be, I'm an extrovert. I've been with an introvert. So like, it doesn't have to be the same big. It just means they have a presence, right? And just remember too that like these tips and tools, they can get you going. Like I say, they're the training wheels. And if you try any of the things, the who, what, when, where, how, the clarity on the date at the end, any of those things, and you're seeing some things working for you, well, that's a start. I call them training wheels because there's still things underneath our beliefs, our fears, that if we don't really get underneath that and free ourselves from it and find that new lightness, so we don't feel daunted in the dating wasteland. Well, those things will help for a minute, but then we'll still find our patterns and habits repeating. So that's why it's so important to work with a coach like you or me or somebody else that's mentoring you, that can hold you, see your goal and desire, really see that higher version of you so you can step into that authenticity audaciously and really own it. So it's a permanent transformation and change in your life. And then not just the relationships with men change, but all your relationships change and improve and have more intimacy and connection, which really that's all we desire, is that love and connection in our lives with all the people we have in it.
Absolutely. Wow. That's just so well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Just that it's really about allowing ourselves to drop into that natural desire for love and intimacy that every one of us craves. And first of all, feel that within ourselves, and get that inner clarity within ourselves to then have the support we need to be present with others, and to create meaningful, soulful, soul shaking relationships with others. And, I love all of the nuggets of wisdom that you've shared to that end on this call. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a joy. And I just want to say to everyone listening and watching, real love does await you. You do deserve it. Your desires and dreams are worthy of deep, lasting love with an amazing man, and you can have that. So stay committed to that goal. Keep going.
Yes, absolutely. I attest to that as well. So, and I hope that everybody has a very love filled day. Till next time.